Just as modern science was produced from Christian theological assumptions, similarly, the Vedic science is produced from a different set of theological assumptions. Most people at present feel shy in talking about the Vedic science because they have accepted the universality of the Christian science. Modern science has successfully decoupled itself from Christianity by obscuring its religious origins. Even if you study a college course on the history and philosophy of science, you will not be taught about how modern science came out of Christian theology. You will just get information about Greek philosophy, the origins of calculus, the history of mathematical logic, or the history of instrumentation. Nobody will tell you about the Christian origins of modern science. By separating itself from Christian theology, modern science has created a picture of itself as a rational and empirical endeavor when all its core assumptions are Christian theology. Those who don't know the history of science think that science is rational and empirical, while religions are based on faith and belief. Hence, they accept the universality of Christian science and think that a Vedic science is a contradiction of terms because it mixes faith with reason. Even many advocates of Vedic science have not been able to accept that there are many alternative kinds of sciences based on different theological assumptions. So they think that the Vedic science must only have discovered earlier what Christian science discovered later. In this way, the universalism of modern science is simply taken for granted because the true history of science is unknown. The fact is that all the assumptions of Christian science are rejected in the formulation of Vedic science. Take, for example, the concept of law. Unlike thousands of laws in modern science, there is only one law in the Vedic science. We can call it the law of choice and responsibility. It is also called dharma, karma, reincarnation, and so on. The law simply states that every choice is reciprocated with a proportionate responsibility. Therefore, if you choose to hurt others, then you will be hurt in return. If you perform charity, then you will receive things in charity proportionate to what you have given away in charity before. Under this law, the material world is not objects, it is simply potentials. Through choice, we pick one potential. When one potential is picked, all logically opposed potentials are naturally hidden. We can call this the cake principle. We cannot eat our cake and have it too. Eating the cake is a choice enabled by the cake potential. If we make that choice, then the cake potential goes back to the invisible state where we cannot choose it anymore. We can talk about the necessity of this singular law. The necessity is simply that there is justice in nature. Nature has purpose and morality. Therefore, when we make a choice, nature records the choice and generates the future potentials. If we make immoral choices, then future potentials are limited to our punishment. If we make moral choices, then future potentials are limited to our rewards. Nobody can punish us if we have been moral. Nobody can reward us if we have been immoral. This is the natural principle of justice, which we also call tit for tat. The government may fail to give us justice, but nature will get us justice. In fact, there will be a justice for a government that fails to deliver justice, because the government is morally bound by justice. This is a high level idea of lawfulness in the Vedic system. There are hundreds of details about how this law works, but there is one law, not thousands of laws. The law is justified by the principle of natural justice. The fact is that nobody can accept injustice against themselves. They might do injustice to others, but they cannot accept injustice on themselves. Therefore, everyone wants and accepts the principle of natural justice. It is not imposed by God upon humans from the outside. It is innately present in each individual as the desire to get justice. Injustice is irrational. This law of natural justice can be universalized to all times, places, situations, and persons. Even as God is omnipotent, even he binds himself by the principle of justice. It means that God doesn't do any injustice. God's omnipotence is not contrary to justice. God is not irresponsible. He acts responsibly. It means that if he does something by his will, he takes responsibility for doing it. He accepts the consequences of his actions. He doesn't blame others or push the consequences of his actions onto others. The contradiction between omnipotence and justice doesn't exist. Similarly, natural justice is not a contractual law. We cannot negotiate arbitrary contracts in which give and take are imbalanced. We cannot arm twist someone to give us a preferential contract. Natural justice ensures that the true value of giving and taking must always be balanced. If we have given value, we will receive value. If we have taken value, value will be taken from us. In contrast to the least action principle, we can call dharma the best action principle. It means that to get the best result, we have to do the best action. The actions can be graded as worse, better, and best. Similarly, the results can be graded as worse, better, and best. We don't need faith in a contract with God. Justice is what everyone wants, and nature is simply giving what everyone wants. Life would be unbearable if natural justice was false. Therefore, to make life happy, everyone must accept the natural justice principle of choice and responsibility and do the best actions. At the heart of Vedic science is the personalization of all reality. Nature is also personalized. Therefore, rivers, mountains, lands, and seas are all persons. Trees, birds, fishes, insects, reptiles, beasts, and humans are all persons. All ecosystems, societies, planets, and the entire universe are the bodies of a person. A body is defined simply as all that a person can control. Due to this personalization, the concept of free individuals doesn't exist in Vedic science. For example, if we are living inside some planet, then we are not free. We are controlled by what happens in the planet, which is controlled by a demigod. Events like rain and sunshine, drought and pestilence, day and night are also controlled by demigods. If we are living in a body, the different functions of our body, such as digestion, breathing, and immunity, are controlled by different demigods. Basically, our body is a part of many other bodies because it is under the control of other living entities. Our bodies are not mutually exclusive. We are not free to do whatever we want. We are controlled in millions of ways by other living entities that we remain unaware of. Personalization depends on a semantic conception of reality. For example, let's suppose that there is a red, round, and sweet apple. Words like red, round, sweet, and apple are universal concepts in the sense that many instances of each of these exist. Now let's personalize these concepts. There is a person whose body is the concept of redness, another person whose body is the concept of roundness, another person whose body is the concept of sweetness, and yet another person whose body is the concept of appleness. All these persons are called demigods. There are 330 million such demigods. They constitute a complete system of concepts. We can say that 330 million is the size of the conceptual dictionary. When a red, round, and sweet apple is created, concepts from different demigod bodies are taken and joined into a single thing we call an apple. Those concepts then become the body of the apple. Therefore, the properties of redness, roundness, sweetness, and appleness do not exclusively belong to just one thing we call an apple. They are also simultaneously part of the bodies of different demigods. By partaking concepts, the apple becomes a part of many demigod bodies simultaneously. We cannot visualize this simple idea in physics because an apple is just like a person simultaneously sitting on many chairs called redness, roundness, sweetness, and appleness. In physics, one thing can only be in one place. Physics requires a person to exclusively sit on only one chair. Therefore, demigods cannot be part of my body, and I cannot be part of the demigod body. All the bodies must be mutually exclusive. But when we take a semantic view of reality, then mutual exclusion disappears. Now, apple body is a part of demigod body, and demigod body is a part of apple body. These bodies are just like chairs. The person sitting on the chairs are sharing that chair. The concept of private property disappears. Our body is itself a shared or community property. Therefore, we cannot say that the apple is an independent, separated thing. The thing we call an apple is a part of many classes such as redness, roundness, sweetness, and appleness. All these concepts are defined in a hierarchy, which is like an inverted tree whose root is at the top and which diversifies into many trunks, branches, twigs, and leaves. The parts of the tree are not free particles or free individuals. They are all integrated together into a single whole. Therefore, the concept of free individual and free particle is rejected in Vedic science and replaced by integrated individuals. The whole universe is one organism. Within that organism are many other organisms, within which are many other organisms. An organism is the model of all of reality. The Vedic science doesn't model reality as independent particles, objects, or individuals. It models them as parts of a whole. The collective interest is the individual interest in this system. Uniformity in modern science was created by assuming that there are very few physical properties and those properties exist in everything. For example, in classical mechanics, the entire universe is just particles with just two properties called position and momentum. In contrast, in the Vedic science, there are 330 million properties, each personified by a different demigod. The demigods are not eternal. They temporarily receive a particular body to control a particular property. It is like a person sitting on a chair temporarily who gains hegemony over that chair. The vocabulary of classical mechanics comprises a few words like particle, position, and momentum. However, the vocabulary of the Vedic science is enormous because there are 330 million properties. All these properties don't exist in everything. The bitter gourd doesn't have the property of sweetness, unlike an apple. Water doesn't have a smell, unlike an apple. The universe is infinitely diverse because different property combinations exist in different places. No two apples or oranges are identical. No two humans are identical. No two places or times are identical. That is because every place in the universe is a unique combination of properties. These property combinations keep changing over time such that no two times have the exact same property combination. We can imagine the number of property combinations created from 330 million properties. The universe is the potentiality of all the valid property combinations. Since the universe is infinitely unique, therefore, any attempt to reduce the universe to a few concepts like particle, position, and momentum is immeasurably incomplete. We simply cannot reduce the complexity created by 330 million properties to the complexity created by two properties. Since science tries to do this reduction, therefore it becomes a mockery. The mockery is seen in the fact that science has to create thousands of laws that work for different subsets of phenomena, and that too not always. If we try to merge those thousands of laws into one law, or if we try to explain the cases when the mathematical laws don't work, then we will require 330 million properties. Anything less than that would be incomplete in one way or another. This is why those who understand the complexity of the universe call the theories of modern science the vision of a frog in a well. A frog in the well thinks that the whole universe must be like its well. For example, modern science creates its theories of particle motion based on the study of billiard balls. It creates theories of wave motion based on the study of water waves or string vibrations. Then science tries to universalize these theories because it has assumed that the whole universe is just one type of thing. Basically, the vision of the scientist is limited to billiard balls and water waves. This is the well in which the frog scientist lives. He imagines that the whole universe is just like billiard balls and water waves and creates a farcical theory of reality. In complete contrast to modern science, or shall we say Christian science, the Vedic science describes the universe in terms of infinite uniqueness, integrated individuals, and non contractual laws. The infinite uniqueness is empirically observable. The non contractual laws are rationally justifiable, and integrated individuals is the result of seeing everything in terms of concepts. The conceptual semantic vision of reality cannot be captured in any mathematical law. However, it can be described in terms of an alternative science of semantics and personhood. We will not try to cover the science of personhood here because it will take us away from the present focus, which is to understand how an alternative science is created from an alternative religion. The Vedic religion talks about choice and responsibility. It talks about individuals living as part of a family, body, or organism. And it talks about literally infinite uniqueness in the universe. In contrast, Christian science replaces choice and responsibility with contractual covenants with God. It emphasizes the radical individualism and freedom of each individual, and it makes the universe uniform. Science replaces a semantic worldview with a physical worldview. Science replaces personalization of nature with depersonalization. Science replaces the rationally justified and necessary law of choice and responsibility with the rationally unjustifiable and unnecessary concept of a contract between man and God. The sciences are so different because the religions are so.